right, welcome to another episode of the Bulldog Bark. I am yours truly, the Guru. With me, as always, got my partner in crime, BFC, Butler's Fighting Crew. And with me today, we got another very special guest, former Butler Bulldog, Tyler Lewis. How's it going, man?
Everything's going well. Appreciate you guys having me on here.
Absolutely, man. Again, I know we spoke a little bit before we hopped on here, but love having some of the alumni back on this podcast and hearing what's going on with their lives. So really excited to hear what's going on with you. And that said, before we get into anything else, kind of talk to us a little bit about what life's been like for Tyler Lewis ever since his Butler Bulldog days.
Well, first off, just thanks for having me on here. Y'all do a great job. So I
Appreciate it,
really,
man.
I really appreciate it. So I spent 3 years in college coaching, hopped around from Furman, East Carolina, and finished up at Elon. During that COVID year, my brother got out of coaching as well and started working with my dad at Phenon Hoops. And I thought, man, what a perfect time to be able to work with my brother and dad. So for the past going on 4 years in October, I've been working with Phenon Hoops, and we run tournaments and camps throughout the Southeast. We have scouting service that college coaches subscribe to, and it's been really fun. It's still being able to be around the game of basketball, being able to impact high school kids' lives, and being able to give them a platform to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And kind of building off of that, obviously a recent Butler commit from Colt Langdon, who obviously played for Phenom Hoops, right? So what's kind of the process like? Do you still have a good connection with like Barlow and the staff? What's the communication like with that? Do you see a player and you say, "Hey, you guys should come check this guy out," or what's kind of the process there?
I think it kind of works both ways. Barlow's, been one of my best friends since I transferred to Butler. My first summer up there, we were roommates that summer, and really just had a great relationship with him. And being 2 point guards and undersized point guards, and we have to be tough as nails. And Barlow's one of the smartest guys I know. He has a brilliant basketball mind, heck of a coach, just heck of a person. And he kind of represents the Butler way. Just the way he carries himself throughout life, and then obviously as a coach as well. But yeah, I remember, a couple years ago, I met, we had a tournament down in Rock Hill. Barlow was down there recruiting. I think it was at Adidas. We met up for dinner, and I just told him that he should, look at, Colt Langdon. I think he'd be someone that, would fit that Butler mold. And, ever since then, um, he built a great relationship with Colt, and Colt's family are great people. He's a great kid, really good basketball player, and I think they fell in love with the Butler way and the culture that Butler has. And I always tell people it's like Butler is just a special place, and everybody thinks of the basketball part, or Hinkle Fieldhouse, but the culture and the people is what makes it so special.
So you might have touched on it right there a little bit. Obviously, everyone knows you did 2 years at NC State, then you transferred over to Butler. What was, and again, the transfer portal these days is clearly different, than when you went through it. But kind of talk to us a little bit about that. What was your experience like? What made you ultimately decide, hey, I'm going to transfer from NC State, head over to the Butler Bulldogs?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's one of the hardest decisions of my life, growing up in North Carolina, ACC country down here. And, I committed to NC State as a junior in high school. Though the coaching changed my senior year because I committed with Sidney Lowe, and then Coach Godfrey got the job. But spent 2 years at NC State. I mean, went two NCAA tournaments, and, you know, probably, a little immaturity on my part, maybe, I don't know, whatever. We all get caught up in, you know, random stuff as 20-year-old kids. But the Lord put me in a great situation, and led me to Indianapolis and led me to Butler. And those 3 years at Butler really changed my life, not only on the basketball court, but you meet so many, like I said, you meet so many great people, surrounded by a great coaching staff every day. The players are, I mean, it's like a family, and the people around campus are awesome. And being able to, we went, I mentioned two NCAA tournaments at NC State, but going three NCAA tournaments at Butler, and one Sweet 16, and it's special. And my wife is a she's not a Butler grad, but we sit down and we're always big Bulldogs fans, and we watch as many games as possible, and at least try to make it up to Indy and Hinkle at least once a year. So, um, yeah, Butler's just a special place, and I'm really excited that the Lord took me there during my transfer process, because I guess He could have led me anywhere in the country, and He put me right there in Indianapolis.
Absolutely, man. BFC, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I think, you really have an interesting perspective just as a, big time high school recruit, McDonald's All-American, top 50 recruit, and now working with, kids that are kind of going through the same thing. And obviously it's a just completely different landscape. So what do you think are some of the big differences compared to, when you were kind of going through the high school recruitment process to what you see now?
I think it's a lot harder for high school kids, honestly. The college landscape's changed. I mean, if you can get a transfer, I mean, when I transferred, I had to sit out a year. And nowadays, I mean, if you can get a transfer as 21 years old, I mean, it's common sense. If you're a college coach, you're going to take the 21-year-old kid over a 18-year-old freshman any day of the week. And that's where it's really changed. It's kind of like free agency in a way. And you don't know who your roster is going to be year in, year out. And so I mean, I'm really happy that the players don't have to sit out a year, but also it puts a lot of pressure, I think, on the coaches to win right away too. So that's the downfall of it all. And there's not a lot of people, there's not a lot of 4-year players anymore. I know I wasn't a 4-year player, but I mean, some of the great players that I played with at Butler were all 4-year players. I mean, my junior year, first year playing, I mean, you had Rose Jones and Kellen Dunham, two of the best. And then my senior year, I mean, Andrew Travis, Keelan Martin was a junior, Tyler Wideman, Kamar Baldwin, freshman. I mean, Sean McDermott, he spent 5 years, he redshirted. Um, so those guys are, I don't think you'll see that as much anymore in college basketball as you did, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah. And I think, obviously from a coaching perspective, I always just find it interesting because I do feel like Butler's in an interesting spot where culturally, I think 4-year guys really fit the mold of like what we try to do. But then also in the new landscape, you need those mid-major guys coming up, or like we talk about a lot, like Pierre Brooks, the high major players that maybe just need, more time on the court. But what do you think is kind of the difference between coaching a guy like that's coming in for a year or two compared to a player like Colt or Jack McCaffrey or Stink that are going to be coming in as freshmen trying to, kind of fit the mold of the team, but also, they're coming in with putting their own spice on it, planning on being here for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing about, you know, the Butler way and the culture there is like it's more about the team than it is individual. Like I think you understand like when the team succeeds, that's when your individual success will come. And I think, I mean, I do from like a especially in these situations nowadays, like the transfers do have an advantage, like I said earlier, and because they've been in the college weight room, they've been in college, even the high majors who maybe didn't see as much court time, but they've seen it firsthand. They've been through it every day in practice, and and you go from being, a high school kid who's 18 years old. That's a big jump. I think that's one of the biggest jumps in sports is jumping from high school to college, because obviously the physicality of the game is different. The change of the speed of the game's different. The court's longer, and it's just such a big jump from a high school kid to the college ranks. Like I mean, granted, there are exceptions out there where freshmen come in and ball out, but a lot of times it takes a lot of time for these guys to figure it out. And sometimes, like, it's so easy to leave nowadays. Like, these guys, don't necessarily stick it out to see what happens.
Definitely. So kind of connecting your playing career to coaching, I've noticed that especially in the college ranks, college point guards, seem to make, fantastic coaches and make that transition maybe a little bit easier. Do you think there's anything to that, like playing the position as kind of the quarterback of the team, that helps with coaching?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of, hit, kind of put the being the quarterback on the court and being the coach on the floor, like you're the leader. So obviously the coach puts a lot of trust in you while you're out there. He expects you to lead the team. I mean, so you already have an advantage of being, I think, of being a coach because you're stuck in that position. You're leading the other four players out there on the court. And no matter if you're the best player or the worst player on the court, as a point guard, you're the most important player on the court. I say that all the time, because you're the person setting up the offense. You're the first line of defense, and you know if everything runs through you, like you may not get the shot, you may not get the assist or whatever, but you know you have to control your troops while you're on the court. And you have to maintain a positive attitude throughout the court. You can't get frustrated because the moment somebody sees the leader frustrated, they can be frustrated. The moment they see the leader talk back, they feel like they can talk back, you know. So, and being a leader and being a point guard, there's no such thing as bad days. And because everyone normally, when you have a bad day, the team has a bad day. And so it's like a ladder effect. Like you're at the top, you know, being a point guard, everyone's looking at you, and if you're sluggish, the team's going to be sluggish. I mean, if you're in a great mood, you're energetic, the team's going to be energetic. And I remember, coach, our staff that year, it's like you leave all that outside noise at the door. Like once you step in between these lines, you're in between these lines. That's all that matters. And that really kind of hit home that, what happens in between these lines is, all the other stuff doesn't matter. When you're on the basketball court, the game and, practice and that stuff is the only thing that matters in that moment.
Yeah, actually, one of my favorite, and I posted it. One of my favorite highlights of you is actually your half court alley oop to Weidman. I just love that play so much because it's like, I mean, that's a deep pass, and you saw him going all the way down, NCAA tournament game. So to your point, I love it. Right? It's like it's not how much you score, but you're the general of that offense. And also, BFC is clearly asking this because we love Alex Barlow so much, and he's doing an amazing job as our offensive schemer. We love it, but. So speaking of, Butler days, talk to us a little bit about, what were maybe, let's go with Hinkle. What was maybe one of your favorite Hinkle experiences during your playing days?
My playing days was, ooh, I'd probably say my favorite memory was, beating Villanova at home my senior year. And, we actually beat them twice that year. We beat them at Villanova. And, just winning that game. We actually, hit, and I think the Cincinnati game at home earlier that season in December. We're just coming off our only loss of the preseason in the non-conference, and we lost to Indiana State at Indiana State. And then we come back and we're like, man, we have Cincinnati, and that place was just rocking. It was the sun's coming through, like sold out crowd. I'd probably say those two games were probably two of my favorites. Just how loud it was, and just both top 25 games. I don't think Villanova may have been number one in the country. I'm not sure if they were at that time, but they were up there. Yeah, number two maybe.
Number 2, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but that place was rocking, and they were won national championships the year before, and it was just really cool experience. And I always tell people this: just every moment in Hinkle is special. And I'm not just saying like you have a random guy walk in the street, like off, walk in the Hinkle off the street, and they're gonna be like, man, this place is amazing. And and I think, when I first took my visit up there, Hinkle was under construction. So I didn't even get to see it at first. So my first time actually getting up there was when I came up for summer school. And or, I guess we weren't even in there yet. But I mean, it was just that whole environment, the fan base at Butler, and just playing in front of 9,100 people packed out. And me personally, I love the day games when the sun's coming through more than the night games. I mean, I just think it's one of the coolest environments. And I mean, easily, I mean, you can argue, I mean, I think it's number one, but I think anybody in the country would have it top five of best venues in the country.
Oh, absolutely. And then, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of the Cal game, for instance, this last season. It was a noon game, sun was shining through, double OT. Like, I love a good day. There's nothing better than a good day game, Hinkle. I do love the rowdiness. Like the nighttime, I think it's a little rowdier, obviously, because it's nighttime. But
Yeah.
the day games, when that sun's coming through, it is just I almost brings a tear to my eye, man. It's so beautiful. But no, what about thinking of some of like your career games? I know obviously I have an addiction to Butler basketball, so I research way too much stuff. But Citadel and Purdue were your two high scoring games in your career, actually. Talk to us a little bit about your experience during like the Crossroads Classic, what that was like in a place. I think the Purdue game there was one of your 17-point
Yeah.
experiences. I guess back then it was Banker's Life. What was that experience like? Because actually this year they get to play in Cambridge again in the Indy Classic. I guess it's right. BFC is called Indy Classic. That's right, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that
Indy
sounds right.
Classic. Yeah, they get to play Wisconsin, and then it's Purdue and Texas A&M? Question mark. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Which
I
I'm
mean,
kind of hoping.
honestly,
I'm kind of hoping.
I hate that they got rid of the Crossroads Classic.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the best tournaments or, day in college basketball, in my opinion. I mean, I grew up in North Carolina, so like I would probably say this is the hoop state or whatever, but Indiana, like North Carolina, Indiana, two best. And to get four of those, of the best schools in the state to play each other in a, back-to-back game. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Like the basketball gods put it right there in Indianapolis for a reason. And I'm really upset that they got rid of that game because both years, those were probably two of my best games playing in the Crossroads Classic, playing Purdue. And then the next year we played IU. I mean, I didn't score as much, but just really, I felt like I really controlled that game. And, Indiana was, really good at that time, as well. And be able to be 2-0 in the Crossroads Classic and beat two prestigious schools in Purdue and Indiana and kind of crown ourselves as champs of Indiana at the time. But yeah, I hate how they got rid of it, and just I thought it was special, and I think if there was a way to get that back again, they should definitely do it.
Man, I wish that'd be that was. I went to every single one of them. It was such a great environment. Yeah, I missed it a lot. BFC.
Yeah, I would say, kind of going back to your experience kind of being big time high school recruit, McDonald's All American, going into that game, kind of walks through that experience because, a trivia question I do bring up is you're the only McDonald's All American to play for Butler so far. And I don't think a lot of people know about, what that experience is really like as a high schooler.
Honestly, it's one of the best experiences of my life. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I should while I was in the moment. I think when you're in that moment, you're just trying to prove, to everyone why you belong there. And, looking back, I wish, we were there for almost a week, and I wish I would have had a lot more fun during that process. And that's what I tell kids nowadays is being on this side of things is you have to really enjoy it, enjoy the moment, because it's going to go by really quick. And looking back at it, yeah, have cool, you know, gear, jersey or, memorabilia from the game. And it's one of the coolest games I've ever been a part of. But like at the same time, I didn't really enjoy that experience enough. And that's one thing that, you know, there's only 24 people in the country that get to do that game every year. So why not enjoy it? And so like that's one thing. It's just like enjoy the moment where you're at. For me, especially now being on my side, telling these kids, I already proved myself that whole senior year of, even at Oak Hill, people's like thinks I'm like the lead scorer. I was like the fifth leading scorer on the team, but we went 44-0. I mean, I averaged like right at 12 a game, 7 assists, but just being able to, I had DeMonte Smith Rivera played at Georgetown that scored 20 a game, and Jordan Adams that went to UCLA scored 20 a game. Like, even during that time at Oak Hill, it's like you have to be an all-star at your role. And I think that's the one thing that like, no matter what team you're on. And I think like, we did, especially my senior year at Butler, like I felt like everybody bought into their role and really, you became an all-star at your role. Like you weren't trying to be the best player. Like everyone knew, I mean, more than likely the ball was going to Andrew Travis most of the time that year. I mean, as well. I mean, he deserved it. And then, Keelan was, right there with him. Um, so like even like being in my position, people was like, man, like you had to score a lot. I'm like, no, like I was just, really good controlling the game. My assist to turnover ratio was really good. He was really good in college. It was exceptional at Oak Hill, but like, just during that process, I mean, you kind of mentioned like that game. I mean, it was just like one of the coolest moments of my life. And, hopefully, me being the only McDonald American at Butler doesn't last long. Hopefully we get some more coming in there soon.
I
Yeah.
mean, if this class is any indication, I don't think that title's gonna be there for long, and I, selfishly hope that it's not. Um, and then I'd kind of go into, obviously you were at Butler at a really good time of, you know, fantastic players like yourself, Helen, Andrew, being upperclassmen, while that kind of the new, era of like kind of Weidman, Keelan, Kamar that kind of, pushed it for those next 4 years we're in there. Which player in practice did you kind of look at like this guy, maybe an underclassman, maybe in one of your last that you were like, this guy's got it. Like he's going to be something special.
I mean, I think the easiest one was Keelan. Me and Keelan, like I came in the same year as Keelan. I mean, his freshman year was my sit out year. You could just see it from the beginning of how well he scored the ball, and he had the frame, like the body frame to go. I mean, he had great size. He was able to put the ball on the floor, and from day one, you saw his work ethic, and like it was just really cool to see because even like that, he kind of reminded me of like a player at like NC State that I played with, TJ Warren. Like every time you kind of just gave him the ball, like you felt like they were going to get a bucket or a good shot. Um, and it's kind of one of the best things for a point guard because it gives you a couple more assists a game. But I mean, his work ethic was really good, and people don't understand this. Like my senior year, his junior year, we actually got taken out of the starting lineup midway, and we came off the bench for like the final 8, 9 games of the season. So for him to, a lot of people could have pouted and, you know, sulked and, did whatever. But I mean, he was still one of the best players, no matter he came in the game under 16 or whatever. And he was out there, really freaking good every game.
I'll tell you, at the TBT, I walked past him and Tyler Weidman, which actually paused real fast. Can we expect Tyler Lewis to be in the TBT at any point in the future?
I'll go up there and coach. I'll be on the staff coaching the
I
game.
was hoping balling, but okay, I think staff too. Staff works as well.
That's a really hard time of the year for me and my job right now. That's like right in between like the two live periods, and that's two of our
Yeah.
biggest tournaments of the year. I wish I could have got up there this year. I would have loved it. It was such a cool. I was even watching those games on FS1
Yeah.
and watching those guys. I mean, it was really fun seeing those guys back on the court. And yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, whenever the dogs are playing, no matter if it's TBT or a regular season game, like I'm gonna tune into it.
First of all, would love to see you on the sideline or on the court. I think all Butler fans would. Yeah, if it's a bad time, obviously that stinks. But I was walking past Keelan and Tyler Weidman, and you always like gain an appreciation for how massive some of these guys are once you actually. You said his frame was big. You're like, yeah, I noticed right away his frame. And I walked past Keelan, and Keelan always looked big. Like I knew he's a big guy. And I mean, I knew Tyler was a big guy, but I walked past Keelan, I was like, damn. I was like, this dude is huge. And it's
Yeah.
just, I'm sure it's just dedicating your body to a lot of that. But like the dedication you were talking about earlier is probably obviously helped a ton. I know he's killing it overseas. But and then obviously you said that you and Keelan did Kamar. I'm trying that made me pick my brain. Was Kamar starting or who?
Yeah, Kamar started. Honestly, I don't think I know Avery started at the beginning,
Oh,
you know,
yeah, you played Winston and Savage, right?
and Savage, yeah,
Yeah.
Keithan. I'm trying to think. Yeah. Actually at the end of the year we started all three of those guards. It was
Okay.
Keithan, Avery, and Kamar.
Yeah. Do you still
And
keep it? Oh, sorry. Go for it.
yeah, and obviously I know you asked me about another, going your last question. Kamar is easily another one. I mean, he just he was a gamer. Like
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, easy in my opinion, top 5 Butler player all time. Um, but seeing even I only get to play with him a year, but he was such a great kid. He was always asking questions, the willingness to learn, and then obviously his game just took off every single year. And shoot, his second game of his Butler career hit a game winner, and last game of his career hit a game winner. So it's pretty
Yeah.
freaking amazing.
I was gonna say if there's any way you could end your career other than the NCAA tournament because of COVID, a game winner at Xavier is probably the best way you could do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it really
honestly I hated that year ended early because
I know.
that was a special team. And I mean, honestly, I think it was easily a second weekend team. If not, could have went longer. Anything in NCAA tournament can happen, but that team was really good.
Yes, I still I don't even want to talk about it. It makes me sad sometimes. Yeah, it makes me pretty sad sometimes. But do you still keep in touch with some of those guys that you played with? Obviously, you just named a bunch of them. They're a bunch of obviously really well-known Bulldogs. Do you guys still keep in contact, or how? Do you
Yeah, I
see
mean,
them
I
often?
think I still try to stay in contact with a lot of the guys. It may not be an everyday conversation, but it's checking in on guys. Kellen Dunham's one of my best friends. He was room with them. 2 years there. We're at each other's weddings. Steve Bennett is another one. That's my guy. So both of those guys are just also two guys that represent the Butler way, and Kellen's special. One of the best 3-point shooters all time that I ever played with, and um, just a kid who worked his butt off along the way too.
Speaking of Steve Bennett, shout out to Steve Bennett because I was just like looking through tape, and it was the Citadel game where actually, fun fact, Butler's record for a game point score, I think it was like what did you score like 154 that game or something?
144, yeah.
144, yeah, something stupid. And I was watching the highlights, and one he threw an alley-oop pass to Weidman, which was the sickest dunk I think I've seen
Yes.
Weidman do. I mean, that one-handed like grabbed it, just threw it down,
Yeah.
and then also Steve hit a 3 in that game too. And he actually just followed me. I didn't realize he's like an ortho doctor now.
Yeah, he's super smart. And I
Yeah.
remember, I mean, he was always studying at our house. And
Yeah.
he's I mean, honestly too, he was an exceptional leader our senior year on that team. Someone that, obviously didn't play a ton, but someone who was a great teammate, and someone that, really led by, example every day in practice. And he led with his voice too. And just, I mean, he doesn't get the credit enough on that team, but like he really was a tremendous leader on that 2016-17 team.
Maybe a couple other things about your playing days. We talked about kind of your favorite games. What was maybe the maybe the matchup that who would you say was the most difficult matchup you ever went against? I'll say defensively and even offensively, just knowing that they were guarding you. Who was a player that maybe, obviously you had full confidence in yourself, no doubt about it, but who was maybe a guy that you're like, oh, I have to go up against this guy?
I mean, I think the easy option now is like you would think would be, Jalen Brunson, who I think is probably arguably the best college basketball player ever with 2 national championships and a player of the year. I think he's like one of the most underrated players now. Finally, people
Yeah.
are giving him the credit that he deserves. Um, he was really tough. But I think another person was Chris Dunn at Providence. Just his length and his speed and really bothered people. And, me being 5'9" didn't help that he was that tall and that athletic and, able to move like that. And yeah, and I think Edmund Sumner was another one that was really tough to guard at Xavier during those times. He kind of reminded me, had that same body as like Chris Dunn, just, long and good size and, athletic. So I think those three were probably, I'm probably missing somebody else, but those three come to mind that I'm like, oh, yeah, these are really good ones.
Yeah. BFC.
Yeah, I would say just kind of one last, and it's interesting because we've asked this question to a lot of guys. And it's just the toughest place to play outside of Hinkle. And Paulie Jorgensen gave an interesting answer. He said it was Carnesecca. So obviously now St. John's is going to play more in MSG, but he likes playing that small, loud environment. But what was maybe your favorite and then maybe your toughest place to play outside Hinkle?
Ooh. Well, I hate playing. I mean, granted, I hate playing at Dunkin' Donuts Center and Creighton because I never won there before. But those were two environments that were really freaking good too. During my time. I mean, obviously the Dunkin' Donuts Center is rocking a lot, I feel like. And then obviously Omaha, with Creighton is pretty good. Cintas Center gets loud. I don't like to give them too much credit, but
I'm going to
that
edit
is
it out.
but I mean, it is a cool place. I'm trying to think. I would probably say, playing Villanova and beating them at their home and because we never got to play them at where the Sixers play. We always played them on campus, and that place was pretty cool. They run down from that was a pretty cool environment as well. So I would probably say my favorite, I guess, was that Villanova environment, and granted the hardest place was probably those Omaha or Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence.
Yeah, I mean, Omaha, we finally won our second game ever this past season there, which is crazy. We've only won twice there. Because I think the other one was actually
it's loud. I mean, it's a heck of an arena. And
the other one was actually Rosie Jones.
Rosie Jones, yeah, it was my
Yeah.
sit-out year. He hit the game winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That took a while to compile, but it worked out.
Yeah, and I know it's I always felt bad for you because I know some people were coming at you about some more miss. I'm like, holy smokes, there's a lot of them. But
people are like complaining about, so I'm like, guys, I'm trying to cover like 30 years here. I'm trying
you did
to. And a lot of
a great job.
I appreciate it, man. But a lot of the old stuff doesn't have tape either, or like it's like hidden in the archive somewhere. I was like, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, even the one you just posted a B-mail in the NCAA tournament. That was
I will say, so if you type it, if you like search on my thing for Brandon Miller, you'll find this is almost embarrassing. I shouldn't even say it. You'll find a clip that I did find, and there's no audio to it, and it's just like as the ball is leaving his hand, and it's from like the baseline, and that's the only clip I could ever find of it. I never was able to find like that guy that just commented it. I was like, dude, because you sent me this years ago when I was posting all these clips and looking like kind of a dumbass with these terrible clips. But yeah, that took a while. But one more quick one, man, and then we'll kind of wrap things up here. I know you said that kind of those games, the Villanova game, and then what was it? You mentioned a couple of games that you really liked. It might have been the two Villanova games that you won, but maybe a two-part question. One, maybe selfishly, what was your favorite like personal game, like personal achievement game? And then two, what was it like? You mentioned you've gone to the NCAA 4 times. What was that experience like for people that haven't had the opportunity to do it? Like, what was that process like? The travel and all that, and the media. How would that go?
Honestly, I think one of my favorite games was my senior year in the NCAA tournament versus Winthrop. I mean, it wasn't like, it was only like 8 points, but it may have been like 7 assists, 1 turnover. Um, I mean, it was just, being able to get everybody projected us to lose that game is crazy because we were the 4 seed. And then I think everyone, that was like the upset pick of the tournament. And then the next game was like, obviously, they had Middle Tennessee State beating Minnesota, and people had Middle Tennessee State going to Sweet 16. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And honestly, it kind of worked to our advantage because it gave us a little bit more, I mean, obviously, you're always hungry going into the NCAA tournament, but like, it's like, all right, well, even though we're the 4 seed, people are not projecting us to win. Like, what do we have to lose out here? But
Yep.
like, I mean, we were ready to play, and then we played extremely well in Milwaukee. Beating Winthrop, and then next game, I still remember Andrew Travis's 3 to put us. I mean, I think they may have cut it to 3 when they made the run, and he hit the 3 to put it to 6, maybe. But still remember that shot, and just that whole, our whole fan base behind our bench was pretty amazing. And then, just being able to make it to that second weekend, playing in 4 NCAA tournaments is special. And not a lot of people are able to even play in 1, so let alone 4. And it's it's the greatest show on earth, and that's what the NCAA tournament is. Like, especially that first weekend. I mean, you're glued to your TV from 11:15 or whatever that first game is till the last tip at 10:39 at night. And there's a lot of times during that day you have 4 screens open to watch every game. And just being able to play in the NCAA tournament and be a part of 3, my sit out year at Butler is pretty special. And being able to obviously my junior year beat, I feel like we should have beat Virginia in the round of 32, but Malcolm Brogdon said otherwise. And then being able to, I wish we'd have probably played someone else other than North Carolina in the Sweet 16. Just not the best matchup that we had, but I mean, it was still really special to be able to be a part of 3 NCAA tournaments with Butler.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Hey, PFC, you got anything else?
No, this has been awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, hey Tyler, we really appreciate hopping on, man. That was some really fun stuff. Again, hopefully you get back to Indy soon. Maybe we'll see you in the TBT someday. Fingers crossed. That'll be awesome. But if you're ever obviously in the Indy area, let us know. We'd love to see you in Hinkle. But really appreciate you hopping on here. And as always, go Dogs.
Go Dogs. Appreciate you guys.